There are so many series and so little time. Hey friends and book lovers, welcome back. Today's video is going to be a spring TBR video, and not just of all the books that I want to read in the spring, but specifically the series that I want to finish and just completely read during the spring months. So I have about like 3 months left to get all this done, but I think I can do it. So let's dive right in. The first series that I really just need to finish, and why haven't I finished it? I can't answer that question with any good answer, is The Faithful and the Fallen. So I read Malice and I was planning on reading Valor in March. That didn't happen. I don't know why. I think I just went insane and decided that I wasn't going to. I didn't decide that. I would never decide that. I just wasn't able to get to it, and I don't know that I'm able to get to it in the month of April. So I'm gonna try to read it at the end of April towards the beginning of May, and then I'm gonna try to read the rest of the series, which is 4 books for the spring months. So this has been very popular on BookTube recently. I discovered it from a friend that was talking about it, and also fell in love with the writing style. And I know that whenever I fall in love with the writing style of a writer, an author, I will want to read all their books. So this does take a little bit to get into, but it's still a great read. And then I hear Valor and the following books, Ruin and Wrath, just get even better as you go. So I am excited for this. The next series that I want to finish in the springtime is another one that is really popular, and I'm just really late to the game. I don't know why I didn't read this when it came out like decades ago, but I never did. And that is Mistborn Era 1. I'm currently reading The Final Empire, but I feel like once I get into the series, I'm probably gonna binge them. They are quite long books. They're about like 500, 600 pages a pop. I think like pretty solidly 600 pages or so each, so they are pretty lengthy, but this is definitely one that I want to finish in the spring, and I need to. This is a really interesting premise as well. It's about like, what if the Dark Lord won and the world that would be under him, and that is just really cool. I know that this has been around for a really long time, but I don't know why I don't feel like I've read a premise like that before, so I'm really excited. So far, I am like a third of the way through this and really, really enjoying it, so I'm glad I picked it up. And yeah, this is just a series that I really want to finish, and I feel like I need to. It's high time. The next one is something that I didn't even think I would ever read. I figured I'd probably never read this book, but after finishing the Shadow and Bone trilogy, I was like, well, now I have to read that duology too, and that is the King of Scars duology. Now, I'm currently reading the Six of Crows duology, but that'll be done soon because those books are really compelling and they're really fun to read. But I do want to read the King of Scars duology because this is the Nikolai duology, which is all I know about it, and that's all I want to know about it. I really enjoyed his character in the Shadow and Bone trilogy, so you know I'm gonna pick up his duology because I love a good Nikolai, and a whole 2 books about Nikolai. Hunty, I'm here for this. So I can't wait. I bought both books after reading Shadow and Bone because I was like, yes, I need more Nikolai in my life. This trilogy is over. And I heard that these are just even better because, of course, Shadow and Bone was her debut trilogy. And of course, our author's writing always gets better after a few books, and I can't wait. I just can't wait to get to this duology. It's gonna be so good. All right, the next one is the BookTube darling. I have been inspired by a couple BookTube friends to read this, 2 of them who absolutely love it and die for this series, and I can't wait. And again, I love the US covers. I think that they're so gorgeous, and that series is the City of Brass series by S.A. Chakraborty. This is a fantasy series set in the Middle East. It's set with good food, it's set with a really amazing female protagonist, and that's all I need to know in order to be super intrigued in this series. I'll probably be starting this in the next few weeks because I need to read it this month, but again, I cannot wait for this. I am so excited. I really, really hope that I love it enough to just binge it, because you know I love to binge a good series, and that helps me get through the amount of series that I'm reading anyways. But I also think that this is in my top series to read for 2021, so I need to get on it anyways. So I'm excited. I don't know too much about it. I'm going into this one a little more blind because we don't want to know too much. And yeah, I can't wait. If you've read this series, if you like this series, let me know. I want to hear your thoughts. The next one is also a really heavily discussed trilogy on BookTube, and everyone loved the first novel. And I think it is also the author's debut novel. And I was saving this one for the spring, specifically for a reason that you will see, I think, on my May TBR video. And that is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. Now this is a Asian-inspired fantasy, I think around a real event that occurred, and I don't know much about that event, but I really do need to read up on it before I read the series, because I do kind of want to understand where the author is coming from and where the history came from. But this is about a female protagonist, female main character that discovers that she has these amazing shamanic powers, and then I think either before or after figuring that out, enrolls into this school where she gets to explore that. And I think there's a historical situation that's woven in to the fantasy story of this book. So I'm excited. I've heard really amazing things about Poppy War in general, and then pretty good reviews about the series as well. This is one that is just really highly touted and loved and has gotten a lot of popularity recently. And it's also on my top series to read for 2021. I'm almost 100% sure. And so I have to read it anyway. So why not get it knocked out in the spring? And then that way I am just well read up on this super popular series. All right, so the next series that I want to read and that I am currently actually reading, it is so good. Guys, I read 16 pages of this novel and just knew that I loved it. I haven't even finished it, and I know that I love it, and I really hope that it stays that way, but I know that I love it. I am so happy that I picked this up, and I just feel like the writing style is so up my alley. I really, really enjoy it. I don't really know what's going on, but you know what? I love that. I love that I have no idea what's going on. When you're getting into a book and you have no idea what's going on in the first little while, for whatever reason, that really catches me, catches my attention, keeps me intrigued because I want to find out what's going on. And that is The Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. This is the Winnowing Flame trilogy. This has been recently becoming popular because of Petrick and Elle, and actually I discovered this because of Petrick, specifically because I think something happened on Goodreads and it popped up on my feed, and I was like, oh, The Ninth Reign, oh, I'm gonna add that to my TBR, that sounds interesting. Petrick said good things about it, so that sounds really interesting. And then Elle from Elliot Brooks was talking about how she discovered it from Petrick and how she loved it, and then because she has a really large fan base, everyone started talking about this book and buying it. So I'm really happy that I got my hands on the entire trilogy, because it is kind of hard to find, but this is one that I was pretty sure that I would like, and I'm really happy that I got all three, because I don't usually get all three before I read an entire series, but here we are. And again, because you don't really know what's going on for the first little while, it's really hard to describe, but we have a male protagonist and a few other points of view. This male protagonist, whose name is Tourmaline, does leave this really prosperous city, or at least the city used to be really prosperous, and that is the city of Ebora, to find employment with Vintage, who is a lady of a house, and they go down facing monsters, and there's also a witch involved. I read this book and it's like a combination of so many other different books. This is not meant to be a review, but here we are, we're having a little mini review. It is a combination of so many other stories and books, but like woven into each other. I'm getting like flashbacks. It reminds me of like older fantasy that I read in like the 90s and early 2000s, and then it also reminds me of modern fantasy that I have read recently, and I just am just mind blown. I don't know where this story is gonna go, because I've read so many stories and I'm like, well, I wonder if it's gonna go that way, but that story went that way. Oh, I wonder if it's gonna go this way. And then we have like premonition type situations where I'm like, oh, is that what the book is gonna be about? Like, is that the whole plot? And I'm so intrigued. It is so good. It is also just very well written. I love Jen Williams' writing style. It's so accessible, and I really thought that I was gonna go into this and get really, really dense writing, but it's not like that at all. At least not for me, and it seems like everyone that's reading it right now on the Shelf Space Discord is really enjoying it as well. So I can't wait for this trilogy. It will be so good, and stay tuned. I will be reviewing this book as well, so that should come out before the end of April. I'll review the book, and then I have plans to possibly review the trilogy if I can get the whole trilogy read in the springtime. So I am very excited. The next series that I want to read is a YA fantasy romance series, and it is by an author that I really want to get more into, and that is the Air Awakens series, I think it's called. At least the first book is called Air Awakens. I don't know what the whole series is called, but it's that series, that book by Elise Kova. She is a self-published fantasy author, and I think she writes primarily like YA new adult books and focuses pretty heavily on the romance fantasy subgenre, so I'm excited about that. I started the first book with the Shelf Published Inns read along of that this month, and I'm like, I don't know, 10% into the book, and I can tell that it's going to be a bingeable book. It's just one of those books that I am already in the mood to read. Like, I'm in the mood to read it right now. I was in the mood to read it last night and I couldn't because I was busy. I was in the mood to read it all day while working today. So I know that I'm going to finish that series really fast. So I thought I would add it to this collection of series that I'm going to be reading for the springtime. And the books I think are pretty short. They're like 300 or so pages each, which for fantasy, that's pretty reasonable. Really, really reasonable for fantasy. And I think it's a series of 4 books, so not too bad. And fantasy romance and Elise Kova, all the things that I have been wanting to read more of. So I'm embracing it. We're going with it. I am really excited. If you guys have read the series, let me know what your thoughts were. A few of us are reading it right now, so I'm getting real-time thoughts from other bookish friends. But if you've already read the series, let me know. And if you read other books from Elise Kova, comment down below which was your favorite. I'm currently looking through her collection and trying to decide what of her books to read after I finish the series because I am really, really intrigued by her works. The Air Awakens series starts out with this librarian, and I think she discovers that she has these maybe special abilities, and that's all I'm going to say about that. And then there is like a handsome prince in the story too, and don't you know I love a powerful girl with a hot guy. So I'm all over it. I'm very excited to read more than just the 10% that I've been reading. So don't even worry, that wasn't spoilers because all of that is like the first 30 pages of the book and there are like 300 more to go. So we are all set. The last series, and probably not realistically the last series that I'm going to attempt to read in the spring, but the one that I'm going to put in this video for this video is the last one we're going to talk about. And that is the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. This is the first book in the trilogy. And wouldn't you know, it is the smallest book. The next book is like this big. It is so much bigger. But this is, I think, a book that I have read before when I was much younger. So this is either a first read or a reread. We'll find out as we go, but I'm fairly certain that I might have read this trilogy when I was younger and just don't remember it. So we're gonna read it regardless because I don't remember what happens in it, but I'm excited either way. This is about a protagonist, main character named Fitz. He is the bastard of the prince, the bastard's son, and he works in the stables because he has an affinity for animals. So you know the animal companion trope has got to be strong with this one because if it's not, I'm gonna be so upset. And in order to be useful to the royal family, he is an assassin. Well, he's a trained assassin and his tutor is trying to pretty much kill him. And so thus our story opens up, and I mean, we all know that Robin Hobb is a good storyteller, but like I read the synopsis and I was like, oh dang, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense why everyone's all over this because I'm in the mood to read this. I want to read this so bad. But it'll probably be another few weeks or so until I start it. So I will say that for this series, I'm not sure that if I'm going to actually finish it in the spring. I would love to. It's a goal of mine. But at least I'm gonna start it in the spring and probably finish it in the summer because the next 2 books are tomes. Tomes. After this book, Robin Hobb just writes tomes. That is a spoiler for her writing. Yep, just know, if you get into this, you're gonna be reading tomes forever. But I'm okay with that because I like big books and I cannot lie. Alright guys, so that is all the books and all the series I'm going to be talking about in this video. These are all the series that I want to finish and one that I really, really want to start in the months of spring. So catch me outside reading, catch me inside reading, catch me reading all the time. I'm so excited to read all of these books. If you read any of these series and loved them or hated them or just want to tell me what you thought of them in the comments down below, please don't hesitate. Please leave all your comments down below. If you like this video, please click the thumbs up button. That really does help me a lot. And if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more of my videos, because I'm going to be coming out with more TBRs, more updates, more reviews, etc., please don't hesitate to click on that subscribe button.